Okay, let's just admit it. You can't escape AI right now. It's everywhere, and depending on who you ask, it's either going to cure all diseases or, turn us all into paperclips. It is a lot. It's confusing, and for most of us, it feels, well, a little bit scary.
And that right there, that's the heart of the issue, isn't it? When a piece of technology feels like actual magic, it's really intimidating. So our goal with this explainer is to pull back the curtain and show you the wires behind the wizard.
Because here's the big secret. AI is not some conscious mind plotting away in a server farm. At its core, it's just math. Now, granted, it's incredibly complex, mind-bendingly powerful math, what I like to call spicy math. But at the end of the day, it's still just math.
So here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll prove it's math, not magic. Then we'll get into how these machines actually learn, moving from rules to patterns. After that, we'll tackle the autocomplete revolution that gave us things like ChatGPT. We'll even cover how to give these things good directions. And finally, we'll ask the big question, is this thing a friend, a foe, or maybe a co-pilot?
All right, let's start pulling back that curtain. To really get what's going on inside an AI, we first have to understand this massive, fundamental shift in how we've been programming computers for decades. And that shift is really all about this: moving away from a world of rigid, strict rules and jumping head first into a world of flexible patterns. This is the secret sauce for how machines actually learn.
Think about it like this. For years, programming was about giving a computer a super strict set of instructions. So, to get a computer to recognize a cat, we'd literally have to write code that says, if it has triangular ears and whiskers, it's a cat. But what about a cat with folded ears? What about a hairless cat? It breaks down really fast. So machine learning completely flipped the script. Instead of feeding the computer rules, we just fed it data. We showed it millions and millions of pictures of cats and basically said, here, you figure out what makes a cat a cat. The machine finds the patterns all by itself.
And this idea of learning in layers is what we call deep learning. It's pretty cool. Imagine an AI looking at a picture of a pizza. The very first, bottom layer of its network isn't seeing a pizza at all. It just sees a bunch of pixels and simple edges. The next layer up takes those edges and starts combining them into basic shapes, like circles. Then a layer above that recognizes those circles as, say, pepperoni. And then the final, top layer puts all of that together and concludes, yep, this is a pizza. It's that depth that lets it understand really complex stuff.
Now, being able to recognize things was a huge deal, but the game absolutely changed when AI learned not just to see stuff, but to create stuff. This massive leap is what gave us generative AI. And this is where we get to hear about large language models, or LLMs. These are the engines inside tools like ChatGPT. To put it simply, an LLM has been trained on a truly insane amount of text. We're talking pretty much the entire internet. All of Wikipedia, countless books, articles, poems, you name it. And it read all of that to get really, really good at just one thing: predicting the next most likely word in any given sentence.
And honestly, this quote just nails it. You know when you're typing a text and your phone suggests the next word? That's exactly what an LLM is doing. It's just doing it on a completely unimaginable scale, with a supercomputer's brain and a library the size of the internet. This is so important to understand. When you ask an AI a question, it is not thinking. It's not accessing some deep well of understanding. It is running a massive, complex calculation to figure out the most statistically probable sequence of words to give you back, based on the patterns in all the text it was trained on. It's a superpowered parrot, not a philosopher. And that right there, that's why AI sometimes just makes stuff up. We call it hallucinating. See, its number one goal is to create an answer that looks and sounds right. Its job isn't to be factually correct. It's a pattern matcher. So it'll confidently invent a historical event because the sentence structure feels right, not because the event actually happened. Okay, so if this thing is basically a super literal prediction machine, how in the world do we get it to give us what we actually want? Well, that brings us to what is probably the single most important new skill of this decade: the art of the prompt. I mean, just look at the difference here. Garbage in, garbage out, right? If you type "write email about marketing," you're going to get something bland and useless. But look what happens when you give it real directions. When you tell it, okay, you are a senior marketing manager. I need a high-energy email, and oh, by the way, keep it under 200 words. Suddenly, the quality is 1,000 times better. You have to treat it like a brilliant intern who takes everything you say completely literally. In fact, here's a pretty solid formula you can use almost every time. First, give it a persona. Tell it who to be. Second, give it context. What's the situation? Third, set some constraints, a word count, a specific tone. Fourth, clearly define the actual task. And finally, remember, this is a conversation. If the first try isn't right, just tell it what to change, refine it. Okay, so we know how it works, we know how to talk to it. But that leaves the really big question hanging in the air. What does all this actually mean for us? Is this thing a friend, a foe, or something else?
Now let's be real. The immediate danger here isn't Skynet or the Terminator. It's actually a lot more subtle. For one, because these AIs learn from the internet, they also learn all of our human biases, racism, sexism, you name it, and they can amplify them. And second, with deepfakes and AI-generated misinformation, it's becoming almost impossible to trust what we see online. The whole idea of seeing is believing is, well, it's basically over.
And of course, the big one, jobs. Everyone's wondering, is a robot going to take my job? And look, the simple answer is no. AI isn't going to replace you.
But a person who knows how to use AI probably will. This isn't the first time we've seen this. A calculator didn't replace every mathematician. It just gave them a more powerful tool to solve even bigger problems. It's the same thing. This is a tool.
I love this way of thinking about it. AI is like a calculator, but for creativity and language. It's an amazing co-pilot. It can help you brainstorm, write that first awful draft, or organize your thoughts. But it has no real-world experience, no common sense, no soul. You still have to fly the plane.
Which brings us to the final, most important question. Knowing all this, what are we supposed to do? How do we navigate this new reality?
Honestly, it's pretty simple. Number one, don't panic. Sticking your head in the sand isn't a strategy. Number two, adapt. Start learning these basic skills, like how to write a good prompt. And number three, probably the most important one, be curious. Go play with these tools. Ask them to write you a sonnet about your dog, or explain quantum physics like you're 5. The fear really starts to melt away when you realize it's just a tool.
So, by understanding that this isn't magic, that it's just really advanced pattern matching, you are already way ahead of the game. Get out there, start experimenting, and have some fun with it. And hey, maybe be polite to the chatbots. You know, just in case. Thanks for joining me.